Republicans in the U.S. have mounted a robust defense of law and order on their third night of the National Convention. It comes as the nation faces new tension following the shooting of Jacob Blake, a black man in Wisconsin. Now, Vice President Mike Pence was the keynote speaker, warning that only President Donald Trump could uphold order. He said that Americans didn't need to choose between a lawful society and standing up for African Americans. Trump then joined him on stage, making another surprise appearance. He'll give his acceptance speech on Friday, on the final night of the convention. Let's hear more of what Mike Pence had to say.
The violence must stop, whether in Minneapolis, Portland, or Kenosha. Too many heroes have died defending our freedom to see Americans strike each other down. We will have law and order on the streets of this country for every American of every race and creed and color.
And let's get more. We are joined by DW's Peter Rolla-Dahl. So day 3 of the Republican National Convention, the message very clearly law and order here. What were the main takeaways?
Yeah, absolutely. There was no clearer message than law and order. In fact, he said law and order are on the ballot. He painted this really dystopian vision of America if the Democrats win. He, painted a picture of a country cloaked in darkness and chaos and say, you won't be saving Joe Biden's America. Also saying that the choice in this election is whether America remains America. He then turned around and he praised on Trump. That's really one of the things he does best. Touting the economy that's been faring well until the pandemic. And he also did what a lot of other speakers have not done, which was to actually talk about the coronavirus. He praised the administration's efforts, which he has helped lead, and also said that they're on track to have the world's first safe, effective coronavirus vaccine by the end of this year. There was some speculation that Pence would maybe use the stage to try to set him up for a potential run in 2024. And there were really moments where it felt like he seized that opportunity to not only appear vice presidential, but really presidential. For instance, when he reached out and expressed his support and condolences to people who are now in the path of Hurricane Laura. I think, supporters will be very happy with this speech. And if you don't care about facts, it was, objectively speaking, I think, a very solid speech. But it really captured, I think, the essence of much of this convention, which is, paint America the way that Trump would like to see America, not the way that a lot of Americans feel it really is.
Let's have a look at the way that America is right now, the way that it has been the past couple of days, the past couple of nights in Kenosha, Wisconsin, in the wake of Jacob Blake, a black man being killed by police there, protesters on the streets, sometimes unrest. Let's have a look and then get your reaction.
The streets of Kenosha are once again tense as police in armored vehicles attempt to keep the peace for another night of protests against the shooting of Jacob Blake. They're now getting backup from the National Guard and federal agents. This after a dramatic escalation. Videos taken Tuesday show demonstrators trying to disarm a man. Then he starts shooting, hitting several people and wounding 2 of them fatally. The alleged shooter then approaches police with his hands up, but they do not arrest him. And he was only captured a day later in Illinois.
What happened yesterday night in Kenosha was despicable. 2 people were shot and killed, and a 3rd person was shot and seriously injured.
The killings came on a 3rd night of protests that have rocked Kenosha since Sunday. Then police shot Blake in the back, wounding him at the scene of an altercation. Authorities have now released more information about that incident.
Officers attempted to arrest Jacob S. Blake, age 29. Law enforcement deployed a taser to attempt to stop Mr. Blake, but the taser was not successful in stopping him. Mr. Blake walked around his vehicle, opened the driver's side door, and leaned forward. While holding on to Mr. Blake's shirt, Officer Rustin Shesky fired his service weapon 7 times.
Blake is being treated in hospital, and his family say he may never walk again. The U.S. Justice Department says it is launching a civil rights investigation into the incident. But for now, the protests show no sign of relenting.
And we have seen this in so many cities, Peter, outrage on the streets over systemic racism. How is this impacting the run for president?
Well, in many ways, we've seen the candidates and the parties drift even further apart than they were to begin with. I mean, we're really seeing very opposing visions for America. If you look at the Republicans, we talked about the law and order. They've shown very little understanding or sympathy for these protesters. What they've done instead is rather to, launch a campaign of fear, especially white fear, a strategy that worked very well for Richard Nixon back in '68 when he was elected president, where he painted a very, dystopian image of, crime-infested cities, suburbs going up in flames. And in not so subtle ways, dog whistles that paint black people also as really a threat to the well-being and the security of white people. The goal is exactly that, to try to win white suburbanites, many of whom they lost during the midterm election in 2018. So that is one of the main goals for Republicans here. On the other hand, you have the Democrats, the party that is painting itself as a party that can unite and heal America. These wounds that we've now seen being cut all too deep by these past protests and the shootings. You have, Kamala Harris as a vice presidential candidate who's going to try to also bring all these different parties together to be the head of racial justice. And it's really hard to say which message is going to be more effective. Both sides say that they're very enthusiastic going into this election.
Enthusiastic, but it's a polarized country. And what you've highlighted there is actually some efforts to deepen that polarization in order to gain some votes.
Yeah.
Where does all of this leave America?
No, exactly. There's very little united about the United States right now. Politically, it's the most divided that we've seen the country since the Civil War. If anything, they're united in their antagonism toward each other, right? And so with these wildly diverging visions of the direction that the country should be headed, you don't see a lot of room for compromise or willingness even. It does make you wonder, unless either side win resoundingly, how are they going to get anything done? And will they even accept defeat unless it's a resounding defeat?
DW's Peter Rolla-Dahl, thank you.